Terry Desmond and Kevin Desmond, gentlemen, thanks again for being with us on
You're
Graceful
welcome.
Aging.
Thanks for having us.
So if I'm alive and I pre-plan a funeral, I need to tell somebody about it. I need to make sure they understand it. And what do I have to do? Do I have to get them to prick their finger in blood and put it on there?
That'd help. Well, you just have to, 99% of the time, if you take those first two steps, the third one just follows. If it doesn't follow, then there would be issues. And again, the next of kin's requests would be the ones that would have to be followed.
So again, I guess it's a good open discussion. If I'm having the foresight to pre-plan with you, I need to also pre-plan with my family, make sure everybody's on board and have as much clarity as possible.
Absolutely. That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah. And so when families do that and they come in,
That does make things go easier. We've done a lot of our work ahead of time.
are the families more satisfied when that happens, when there's pre-planning?
Yes, I mean, there's not as much pressure in the decision making. Often they are surprised at, the amount of decisions they need to make, the small decisions, so it takes a lot of the pressure off. Yes, I would say they're satisfied.
I think for one other thing needs to be added, though. I totally agree with what Kevin has said, but for many families, the pre-planning process is very emotional. For some people, that is an extremely emotional time, and it may be too emotional to really go ahead with the process. And in that case, it's not worth doing. In that case, they ought to just say, okay, we'll just deal with this at the time, and they'll deal with it just fine. But in most situations, Kevin is correct. When a family does go ahead and pre-plan, it makes things a lot easier on everybody when the death occurs.
So I have a lot more questions for you.
Okay.
So I understand now the federal law, the funeral law, and I should be expecting certain things across the country no matter what funeral home I go in, and that pre-planning is a good thing and pre-paying is something different that I should be cautious of. But is there a law that says I have to have a funeral home director at all to lay Uncle Fred or anyone else to rest?
There is no national law. This is a law that varies by state. In the state of Michigan, where we are, you do have to have a funeral director sign the death certificate, and you at least cannot hold yourself out to the public as dealing in funeral services without having some sort of a license.
Who declares Uncle Fred is dead? Can you declare Uncle Fred is dead? How
No.
does that happen?
Well, no, and if Uncle Fred, as you say, passed away in his Barca lounger at home, two things would have to be done. First, you have to call the police. The police come to the residence, and then they bring in the county medical examiner, and they would be the ones, they're the doctor, they would pronounce the person dead.
The advantages of using a funeral home and funeral directors like yourself, tell us, what are some of the other advantages?
I mean, we're the experts, we're here to serve them, in any way they can. There's also permits required depending on what they want to do, the final disposition of the body, whether it's going to be buried, whether it's going to be cremated. They need to have either a cremation permit from the county medical examiner, or they need a burial transit permit, which is...
So there's a lot of requirements and regulations that
There
you're
is.
aware of.
Most people need someone with the knowledge of what's all the requirements as well as all the options to really help them sort out what they want to do, or if they know what they want to do, how they can go about doing it.
So Terry, you've been a funeral director for
45 years.
45 years, and Kevin, you're starting in a career now
Yes.
yourself, aren't you? So I would imagine through your studies and through your experience, you've heard just about every question that everybody could possibly ask.
Well, no, I seem to get surprised almost every week with a question I have never heard before. But yes, I've heard an awful lot of questions. And people, when I first started, people had a general way they did things. And this is the way it was done. And you needed to know what religion or ethnic background they had, but then you pretty much knew what people were going to do. Today, with society, everybody wants to do things their own way, and everybody has their own idea on exactly how, not only things with funerals, but every wedding is different. Every ceremony is different. Traditional ceremonies have radically changed. But the basic part of the funeral, and that is remembering the deceased, and doing it in such a way to bring comfort to the families. That has not changed. That has stayed constant all the way through. But certainly the way people do it has changed dramatically.